Okay, so we've got this DappRadar report right here, the state of the Dapp industry, Q1 2025.
Yes.
And we want to kind of go through this thing, pull out some of the really interesting points.
It's a good one.
Some of the things that maybe folks should be paying attention to.
Absolutely.
And just have a little fun with it.
Yeah.
So, I think the thing that jumps out to me right at the beginning here is, we talk about all this growth all the time in Web3, and
right.
And we've seen some huge numbers, over the past few years, really.
Yeah.
But looking at daily unique active wallets, DUAW, 24 million in Q1.
Yeah.
That's actually down 3% from last quarter.
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange quarter because we had that run up with pre-Trump getting back into office, and then
right.
Once he got back in and kind of reinstated some of those tariffs and things,
right.
It did cool off a little bit. But some interesting stuff happening kind of under the hood there.
Well, that's what I was going to say is even though that top line number might be down a little bit,
right.
There are some really bright spots when you dig in here.
Yeah, and some areas I think are poised for some really big growth moving forward.
So what are some of the sectors that kind of jump out to you as really taking off?
I mean, AI is the one.
AI is huge.
29% growth quarter over quarter.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really significant.
That's massive.
And it's interesting, I think, because it's not just about some kind of basic functionality. It's really integrating AI in a way that changes the user experience in a pretty fundamental way.
So give me some examples of that. Like what are these AI dApps doing that are really kind of catching fire? Like
you mentioned, LOL, that one was a big one this quarter.
DMail Network had a big quarter.
What is DMail?
Well, DMail Network is a decentralized email platform.
Okay.
But they've integrated these AI agents that can, kind of analyze your emails and give you like sentiment analysis.
Wow.
Help you compose emails, things like that.
So it's kind of like taking all those, AI tools we're seeing like in Gmail and those other platforms and kind of putting them on the blockchain.
Yeah, and decentralizing it, right? So you have more control over your data and who has access to it and all of that.
Okay.
There's another one, Balance.
Yeah.
That uses AI to kind of create these digital personas.
Oh, interesting.
And then you've got some that are in the entertainment space, like Neat 48.
Yeah.
And Momo AI. These are like virtual idols, essentially.
Wow.
But they're powered by AI, so you can interact with them.
Really?
You can have conversations with them.
So is this like a kind of like a chatbot?
Yeah, kind of like a chatbot, but
much more sophisticated.
Okay.
They can learn and adapt to your personality. They can remember things you've talked about before.
Wow.
So it's a much more
interesting,
immersive kind of experience.
Yeah, and this is all happening on the blockchain, so it's all transparent.
Yeah.
You can see the code, you can see how it's working.
Exactly.
It's not just some, black box that some corporation is controlling.
Exactly, and I think that's part of the appeal, right? Is that
right.
With AI, there's always this concern about who's controlling it and what are they doing with my data. And, with these DAPPS, you have that transparency and that control.
So we've got this, this big growth in AI.
Yeah.
And then another sector that I noticed was really doing well with social DAPPS.
Yeah. Social DAPPS are up 10%.
Yeah.
I think that's not really surprising because,
right.
Social media is such a big part of our lives. And
I think people are looking for alternatives to,
right.
The Facebooks and the Twitters of the world.
Yeah. They want more control over their data. They want more privacy.
Right.
They don't want to be able to own their content.
Yeah. And I think there's also a sense that with decentralized social media, you can, you can actually build a community that's, more aligned with your values and your interests.
Absolutely.
And I think that's appealing to people.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about DeFi.
Okay.
DeFi has been kind of the darling of the Web3 world for a long time.
For a couple years now.
But it seems like things are cooling off a bit there.
Yeah, the total value locked TVL is down 27% this quarter.
Yeah, that's a significant drop.
That's a big drop.
And I think part of that is probably due to the the drop in the price of ETH.
Yeah. I mean, ETH is down 45%.
Right.
So that definitely has an impact.
I mean, a lot of these DeFi protocols are built on Ethereum, so when the price of ETH goes down, the value of the assets locked in those protocols also goes down.
So is this a sign that DeFi is kind of over?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's more of a correction.
Right.
We had a huge run up in DeFi over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I think this is just a natural kind of pullback.
Okay.
I think the fundamentals of DeFi are still strong. There's still a lot of demand for these decentralized financial services.
Right.
But I think people are also starting to realize that it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right.
There are risks involved.
Yeah. And we saw some of those risks play out this quarter with some of the hacks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bybit got hit for $1.4 billion.
Yeah, that was a big one.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
And that was attributed to North Korea's trader group.
Right.
Which is...
They've been pretty active.
Yeah. They're not messing around.
No, they're not.
And then we had, a bunch of other hacks as well.
Yeah, there was the Libra rug pull for $250 million.
Yeah.
Melania, another project, $200 million.
Right.
Infini, $50 million.
Right.
Femex, $37 million.
And that's just ones that we know about?
Yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg, probably.
Yeah.
There are probably a lot of hacks that we don't even know about.
Right.
And that's one of the challenges with DeFi is that it's still very early days.
Right.
And the security is not always there.
Yeah. So I guess the takeaway there is, if you're going to be investing in DeFi, you really need to do your research.
Absolutely.
You need to understand the risks.
Yeah.
And you need to be careful.
Yeah. And you need to be prepared to lose money.
Right.
This is not a get rich quick scheme.
It's not your savings account.
No, it's high risk, high reward.
Absolutely.
So you need to be aware of that.
So let's talk about NFTs.
Okay.
NFTs were kind of the big story of 2023.
2023 was the year of the NFT.
Yeah, everybody was talking about it.
Everybody and their grandma.
But it seems like things have cooled off a bit there as well.
Yeah, NFT trading volume is down 24%.
Okay.
And sales are down 10%.
Okay.
But I think it's important to note that this is not necessarily a sign that NFTs are dead.
Right.
I think it's more of a reflection of the fact that the market is maturing.
Okay.
We had that initial hype cycle where everybody was buying and selling NFTs.
Right.
And now we're seeing a more kind of sustainable level of activity.
So what are some of the trends that you're seeing in the NFT market right now?
Well, PFPs are still really popular.
Okay.
They account for 56% of the trading volume.
Wow.
So people are still buying and selling these digital avatars.
Yeah.
Gaming NFTs are also still doing well. And that's because they have utility.
Right.
You can actually use them in games.
So it's not just a digital collectible.
Right.
It actually has some kind of functionality.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then we're also starting to see some growth in real world assets.
Oh, interesting.
Or RWAs.
Yeah.
So this is where you're taking a physical asset, like a piece of art or a collectible,
right,
and you're tokenizing it.
Okay.
So you're creating a digital representation of it.
Right.
On the blockchain.
And so then you can buy and sell that token.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that gives you ownership of the underlying asset.
Interesting.
So there's a company called Courtyard that's doing this.
Okay.
They're tokenizing things like, rare sneakers and watches and things like that.
So is this kind of like a digital pawn shop?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
But it's more than that because you can also use these tokens as collateral for loans.
Oh, interesting.
You can trade them on decentralized exchanges.
Okay.
So it's a whole new way of thinking about ownership.
That's really interesting.
And then we're also seeing some growth in sports NFTs.
Okay.
So this is where you're buying and selling, digital collectibles of your favorite athletes or teams.
Right.
And there's a company called Soar that's doing this.
Okay.
And they're doing really well. They've got partnerships with a lot of major sports leagues.
Okay.
So I think that's an area that's going to continue to grow.
So overall, it sounds like the NFT market is still healthy.
Still healthy.
Yeah,
it's just maturing.
Yeah, it's not the
Wild West anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
it's becoming more mainstream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's good for the industry.
Right.
To have more stability.
Absolutely.
And it's good for users because it means that the products and services are getting better.
Yeah. So we've talked about AI, we've talked about DeFi, we've talked about NFTs.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in this report that really kind of jumps out to you?
I mean, I think that the big takeaway from all of this is that Web3 is still evolving.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a very dynamic space.
Yeah.
There are going to be ups and downs.
Right.
But the overall trend is positive.
Yeah.
I think we're going to continue to see more adoption, more innovation.
Right.
And more growth.
And more challenges too.
And more challenges.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. So as we kind of wrap things up here.
Yeah.
I guess the question I have for you is, we've seen all this innovation in AI and DeFi and NFTs.
Right.
What do you think is the next big thing?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know if I have a crystal ball.
Right.
But I think we're going to continue to see these technologies converge.
Right.
So I think we're going to see more AI-powered DeFi protocols. I think we're going to see more NFTs that are integrated with AI.
Interesting.
And I think we're going to see more social dApps that are using AI to personalize the user experience.
So it's not just going to be these separate silos. Right. It's going to be all these different technologies kind of coming together to create something new.
Yeah. And I think that's where the real magic is going to happen.
Oh, I think you're right.
When we start to see these technologies combined in new and innovative ways.
Well, that's a great place to leave it, I think. Yeah. A lot to think about.
Absolutely.
As we move forward in this Web3 world.
Lots to be excited about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.
Sounds good.